Yeah, good evening, everyone. Uh, I'm Ashwini Singhania, and I welcome you to the second session of Statistic for Professional. Hope I'm audible to everyone. So let's begin with the second session, but we have to start from the last session because we have left something in the last session. Uh, so let me pull up the last session PPT. Yeah. So we have already gone through mean, median, mode, dispersion, and that we went through standard deviation, range, interquartile range, variance. So we also learn a study that what is the shortcoming of means, and when we are not able to use means, and it's basically when there are outliers in the data set. So it is very important to identify the data outlier in the data set. So let's begin that part, that is box and whisker plot. So here we will understand that how this box and whisker will help us to understand or identify the outliers in the data set. So I'm just pulling up the data from my last class. That was the sales data. So we can produce this box and whisker plot in the Excel also. So that's not an issue. So let's understand what this box and whisker plot is. So here we can see this image. In this there is a box, and on both side of it there are tails. So in that we need to put data in such a way that it will help to identify the outlier. So we have already covered the Q1, Q2 and Q3, that is quartile 1, median and quartile 3, and how we calculate it. So if this is going to be a number line, and on above this there are data points. So if we are going to calculate the quartile 1, median and quartile 3 for my data set, so on this box exactly in the between middle of this box, this represent the median part, because 50% of data will be lying on the left hand side of this box, and 50% of this line, and 50% of the data will be lying on the right hand side of this box, and the end of this box present the Q1 and Q3, that is quartile 1 and quartile 3. And we know the formula for interquartile range, it is Q3 minus Q1. This will give us interquartile range. Now let's come to whiskers. Sorry. Yeah, so whiskers basically consist of all the data which is beyond the Q1 and Q3. So any data which is below the Q1 value will be represented on tail, and any data that will be above Q3 will be here on the right tail. So we have to decide that which value will be there at end of the tail. So it can be any one of the two value. For example, if we are talking about the left side tail end, then either we can put the minimum value, or it should be uh, Q1 minus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range. So whichever will be the higher of the two, that will be the end of this whisker. On the same way, either the maximum value or the value that we will get by this formula, that is quartile 3 plus 1.5 multiplied by IQR, that is interquartile range. So we will get, so whichever will be the minimum of two, okay, in this side, whichever will be the maximum, either the minimum value or the q1 minus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range, and on the right side, which one will be the minimum of two, that is the maximum value, and q3 plus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range. Let's understand this through the data. So I'm just going to copy this data to the next sheet so that it will be clear to us. So here is the sales data, and if we want to identify that if mean will be a suitable measure of the central tendency, or it should be the median. So for that we have to identify the outlier in this. So let's create the interquartile range. We can directly calculate it, but first let's calculate the all the important element of it. So first we need to understand the maximum value in this data, and that is this, and then the minimum value. So this is the minimum value. Then we need to calculate the quartile 1, median, and quartile 3. So let's first go with quartile 1. So we have to select the array, and then we need quartile 1. So first quartile. So this is quartile 1, then we will create the median. So we can also use the quartile formula over here, function over here, and in place of the number we will put 2, but we can directly calculate it through the median itself. Let's put the median function over here so that we will remember that Q2 is nothing else but the median. And then finally Q3. So these are the values. Let's draw directly from the data the box and whisker plot. So this is the box and whisker plot. Okay, so here we can see that this particular box which represent the quartile 3, quartile 1, the lower side will be the quartile 1, which has a value of 2203. We can see here the value, and the Q3 value will be 4508, and the minimum value is 482. And if we are going to see the minimum value where we have calculated it, it's nothing else but the same number, and even we can match Q1 and Q3 and even median over there. But the maximum is what? 140, that is 14,082. And when we see in this plot the value of this particular upside value, it's 7962 at 14,000, 7,962, because here the formula is being applied, because the formula, that is 1 Q3 plus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range, will have the lower value than that of the maximum value in the data point. So all these data which we can see here is actually the outliers. So we can see that out of this line that attached to the tail, these points are showing that there are many, not one or two, but many data points that are actually the outliers. So we can say here that mean is not the appropriate method to measure the central tendency. So for that reason, we will consider over here median, as a measure of central tendency rather than mean. I hope it is clear to you. If you have any question from this or any topic from the last class, you can ask me, and then we will start with the next session. That is today's session, probability. Okay, so let's move to the next topic for today, that is probability. So in this, we are going to cover the general probability and the concept of probability.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, instructor.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. I just need you to help on clarifying, on identifying Q1, Q2, Q3 on the.
So you want me to tell you how we can find Q1, Q2? Hello. Can you tell me again what you want?
Sorry, on the whisker plot, I just need is how to identify those Q.
You want that how we will compute those values Q1, Q2, and Q3?
Q1, Q2, Q3 minimum and maximum values. How can you identify? Please, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. You can simply there are actually Excel function. So for maximum value, you just need to put the max function. So it's equal to max and then max function, and then you have to select the entire data. So we'll get the maximum.
No problem there. Sorry, no problem there. Just on the whisker plot. On the whisker plot,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here, see, this is the minimum value, the lower one. Okay, that is the minimum value. So in minimum value, there will be one of the two things. So here, either minimum value or it should be Q1 minus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range. So for example, if I'm going to apply that formula, then the value for this, what I will be getting using that. So here, this is Q1. Let's calculate IQR, that is interquartile range over here. So this will be Q3 minus Q1. So this will give us interquartile range. So the whisker should be either minimum minus 1.5 multiplied by interquartile range. Something. Yeah. Or it should be, this is for minimum side of the whisker plot, and for maximum side of whisker plot should be Q3 plus 1.5 multiplied by IQR. Okay, so this is on the maximum side. So we have to compare both. If we are talking about the left hand side whisker plot, then in that case we have to use the maximum of the two. This is what we are getting from this formula and the Q3. So if any one, so whichever of these two is the maximum, that will be the minimum value on the, not this, minimum value this or this, whichever should be the maximum of these two, this will be the minimum boundary of the box and whisker plot. So here we can see this is negative and this is 482, which is positive. So obviously from these two we can see that this is the higher value. So this will be on the lower boundary of the plot. Whereas when we compare on the upper side, we can see the maximum value is 14,000. Whereas from the formula, we are getting maximum of 7,964. So in this case, minimum of the two should be the higher boundary of the box and whisker plot or upper boundary. So we will select the value that we got from the formula and not we are directly going to use the maximum. So I hope it is clear now.
Yeah, so you consider the values we get from the formula like Q1 minus 1.5
Yeah,
times
yeah. So
the
Q1 minus
quantity range,
1.
and then Q3 minus
Yeah, no,
1.
Q3 plus. It will be Q3 plus, and
Yeah, sure, sure,
yeah.
sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to the today's session now. So we are going to start with probability, and so let's understand what the probability means. So basically, when we talk about the term probability, even in general sense, for example, when we say that uh, by seeing the clouds over the sky, we always almost say that there is high probability that it is going to rain today. So that's basically we talk in probability, okay, but in general terms or in general talk, we don't give the probability any number or numerical value. But in the statistics or in mathematics, we actually give a numerical value to that probability what we are talking about. So in terms of statistics, what probability is, that probability measures the likelihood that an event in future will happen and can take place value between 0 and 1. So 0 means there's no chance that something will occur. For example, if I'm talking about rain, the probability of raining today, so by seeing the weather, I can say that there's zero probability that it will rain today. Or if there is dark clouds in the sky and there is high probability that it will rain today, so we will move towards the 1. So the probability will always measure between 0 and 1, where 1 represent 100% probability that something will happen, and 0% means there is certainty that it will not happen, whereas one suggests that there is certainty that the particular event will take place. So there are few terms, a terminology uh, in this probability. Let's discuss that. So any activity in a statistic that results in one of number of possible outcomes. So basically, what is outcome in statistics? Suppose you roll a dice. So the possible number of outcome after rolling a dice will be 6. We can get any number on the top from 1 to 6. So those are terms as outcome. Whereas when we throw the dice and the result or outcome is uncertain, we don't actually know which will come on the top. So that is called random experiment. So any action for which the outcome is not certain, you cannot say that what outcome will come. So that will be called random experiment. An event is something which actually turns up. For example, if I roll a dice and 5 comes up, this is called event. So any random experiment is a collection of events, and collection of all these events are called sample space. So for example, again, when we are going to roll a dice, we know that the only possible events that can occur is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, not 7, not 8, nothing else, but only this all possibility of outcomes is basically called sample space. And so if I say that I want only even numbers when I roll the dice, so these even number are actually subset of the sample space. So I hope these terms are very much clear to you all. Okay, so let's move to property of probability. So as already discussed, that the
Yeah,
probability,
sorry.
yeah, uh, yeah, Your voice is not clear
so
actually.
we can all what extend it well.
Sorry, I didn't
For
get you.
example, bullet one, the probability always be a. I can't read the right word.
I didn't get you what you were saying.
I just needed to extend the slide so we can able to read all words on the slide.
Okay, okay. So I hope it is clear now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So the the probability can be between 0 and 1, right? We have already discussed it, where 0 says that there is impossible event, whereas 1 suggests certain event. Okay, so let's understand some few of the keywords. So when we talk about proportion of percentage, it means that we are talking about marginal uh, probability, whereas not and and not is a complementary probability. We will discuss in detail also. And or indicate joint probability, and given, suppose, if, of indicate conditional probability. So basically, these dark word, you will always find these words in the questions. Okay, so if you have these words, so this will help you to identify what actually being asked. So if for example, let's move to marginal probability. So here, the simple way to calculate marginal probability, for example, what is the probability that one will come on the top if a dice is rolled? So the total number of possible outcome is 6, whereas 1 will be the event that we are looking for. So 1 by 6 will be the probability. So these are called marginal probability. These are very easy to calculate even. For example, if we toss a coin and the probability of landing head is 1 by 2, because total number of outcome is 2, whereas we are looking for head. So 1 for head and 2 for two possible outcome. So the probability is 0.5, that is 50% probability that head will come up, and another 50, that is the uh, the complement of that particular event A. So event A here is that when a coin is tossed, head will come up. So this is complement A, the probability of complement A. So see, we can calculate it by 1 minus 0.5. So we will get 0.5 in that case. For example, if we want the complement A for the probability of this particular event, which I discussed about the dice, rolling a dice, and where I wanted 1. So in that case, what will be the complement of this? 1 minus 1 by 6. So basically 5 by 6 will be the complement of this event. So here I have a table which we will follow to understand the entire this different kind of probability actually. So let me explain you this table. This table contain some data about the customers who might be visiting to the shopping mall. So basically, in that supermarket, there are some loyalty programs in which people are enrolled. They might be getting some discount. So that so there are few customers who are enrolled in that loyalty program, and few are there who are not enrolled. And then other criteria is that few customer who orders more than $50, and few customer who don't order more than 50, or in other words, orders less than $50. So this is how the table represent that people who are under loyalty program, yes, and orders above $50, yes, so they are 210 in number, and those who are not under loyalty program and the order above 50 are 70 in number. In the same way, the others number, for example, those who do not order more than 50 but are under loyalty programs are 110. So this way we can use this data to calculate probability. So here it's saying that what is the probability or what is the proportion of customer who are covered under loyalty program. So it's the total number of people in the loyalty program is 320, and total number of people, a customer going into this shop are 500. So 300 divided by 500, so 0.64 is the proportion or probability that people are going to be covered under loyalty program. Whereas this is the complement number of loyalty program complement, that is 1 minus 0.64, that is 0.36 proportion or probability of people are not going to be covered under member of loyalty program. I hope this thing is clear to everyone. So now we will move to joint probability, where we can always see the keywords like and or odd. So let's understand this. So A and B means the whole set of a whole sample space of A, whole sample space of B, and also the intersection part, whereas B represent either A or B. A and B represent that part that's actually contain both A as well as B, the overlapping part, the and part. Whereas odd represent or either you are the part of A or B, or you are within both. So that will be the condition of R. So we can understand it by seeing an example. For example, here an order, what is the probability an order is more than $50 and a customer is member of loyalty program? So here we are looking for and. So we are considering those people who are under loyalty program, yes, and also ordering above 50. So here in this table we can see that that number is 210. So 210 by total possible number, that is 500. So the probability is 0.42. Is it clear to everyone? So when we talk about and, it means that intersection part we are talking about, the overlapping part. Whereas when we talk about odd, we are talking about all the part. Okay, so if we are talking what is the probability an order is more than $50 or a customer is member of loyalty program. So either of the condition will suffice. So here, of course, those people who are the member of loyalty program as well as order more than 50 will be the part of our probability. Also, those people who not order more than $50 but are the member of loyalty program will also be added, and those people who order more than $50 but are not under the loyalty program will be also added. So here these three will be added and divided by 500, that is the total number of people. So the probability of order more than $50 or customer is a member of loyalty program is 0.78. I hope you are able to differentiate between and odd. If there's any confusion, you can ask me. I will repeat it. Okay, so let's move ahead. So now moving on to the conditional probability. So let's directly move to the, yeah. So here we always write conditional probability in this way. That is probability of A given B has occurred. So there's two events in which one of them has already happened and other is to take place. So we are asking that what will be the probability of that particular event. So here A is written first and B is written second. So order is very important over here. So if A is written first, we are asking for the probability of A when B has already occurred. Let's see the example. So suppose a customer is a member of loyalty program. What is the probability that there is more than $50? So here, what has already happened? Suppose the keyword which we have discussed earlier, a customer is member of loyalty program. So we are considering those people who are already the member of loyalty program and then they are ordering more than $50. So we need to find out that. So there's a very simple way to calculate it. So instead of 500, the total number of outcome, we are not going to use that as denominator. We will use something else. What we are going to use? What has already occurred. So here, suppose the number a customer is a member of loyalty program. So this has already occurred. This is the B in this case. So B will be the probability of B will be the denominator. So here, this is the B, that is member of loyalty program. There are total 320 people who are already the member of loyalty program, out of which 210 people are actually ordering more than $50. So this will become the numerator, and 210 by 320 we will get a probability of 0.65. Is it clear to everyone? You can see this also and understand it. This example is a similar example, just a little bit of difference. So here, suppose an order is more than $50. So what here has already occurred? So actually that part here is that $50. So order above $50. So here the order above $50 is 280, which will be the denominator, whereas what is the probability customer is a member of loyalty program. So out of this 280, only 210 of them are covered under the loyalty program. So 210 by 280, we will get 0.75 as a probability. So there is a small question you can practice and tell me the answer if anyone can calculate it. I'm giving you 3 minutes for that. If you can calculate it by reading, just tell me the answer. Otherwise, after that, I will calculate it for you. So here we need to understand that what has already occurred and what we need to find. So once we are able to identify that, we will be able to get the denominator as well as numerator, and then we can easily calculate the condition probability over here.
Is the answer 0.08?
Just a second, I think so. Yeah, that is the right answer. So we can see here that what is already given, I mean, the question says find the probability that the country is in South Asia region. We have to find the probability for the country that is in South Asia region, and what is the category she is talking about, given the keyword over here, given that share categorize the country's business startup cost high. So under high, total country is 87, and under Asia there are 7 countries. So this 7 will be the numerator and 87 will be the denominator. So we'll get the value of around 0.0804, something like that, right? So I hope it is clear to everyone. Now we will move towards Bayes theorem. This is more, once you are clear with conditional probability, there won't be much problem in understanding the Bayes theorem. This is the last topic for today. We will end up with a question. So let's begin over here. So we already know that probability of A given B, the formula is A intersection, probability of A intersection B by probability of B. So for example here, this was the B. So here actually this is the table. That's why we are directly calculating the number and using the number to calculate the probability. But if we look into this part, okay, so in conditional probability, when there's and, we are using the intersection part, that is the overlapping part, which will be the part of both. So here in and we are using this part. We are not going to use A, we are not going to use B part, but the overlapping part. So this is the intersection part. So that's what we are using in and. So in this we can see that probability of A given B has occurred. The formula stands probability of A intersection B by probability of B. In the same way, probability of B given A has occurred. So the formula for this, probability of A intersection B divided by probability of A. So the common in all these, in these two formula, is the numerator part. So we can make numerator as a subject for both. And if we are taking this as subject in numerator in this one, so this will be P, probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A when B has occurred multiplied by probability of B. In the same way, P, that is probability of A intersection B, will be probability of B when A has occurred multiplied by probability of A. So from here we can derive this formula from the equation 1. So from here we derive equation 1, and from equation 2 we are deriving this equation. So probability of A, so just hiding this part, this will be probability. From here if we see, so we are making this as a subject and bringing this probability of B on the right hand side, so it will come as a denominator. So we are going to come up with this particular equation in equation 2. So we are actually trying to derive and see that how and from where this formula for Bayes theorem is coming. Otherwise we can directly use the Bayes theorem also, or formula also. So once we are done with this derivation, so from there we can derive the equation 3. So here probability of B, so here this probability of B will be, just replacing this 3 over here. First let's understand the figure which is above here. So there are three kind of event, A1, A2 and A3, and these three are mutually exclusive. Okay, that is none of the can occur together. If A1 has occurred, A2 cannot occur. So it's mutually exclusive. On that there is an overlapping event B, which will be covering all the three. So in this, the probability of B will be what? Probability of A intersection B, and then probability of A2 intersection B, and then probability of A3 intersection B. So I'm just trying to derive the probability of B from this figure. So this will be the derivation for that, and from here we can break it. So We already know the formula for A intersection B from the last slide. So this is what the formula stands over here. So putting this over here, probability of B will be this for this part. For this part, we are going to put this. And in the same way, we are goes on adding. So I think it is clear to everyone. If any confusion is there, tell me, I will repeat it. So we are just trying to derive the formula for base term. So basically, if there are three parts, so we are just going to do the summation of these three. That's what we have written here in short. And then finally, we are deriving this where we will be, the entire equation will be this particular one, that is probability of A1 or AI, whatever A I'm talking about, given that B has occurred. The formula will be probability of B when AI has occurred multiplied by probability of AI divided by summation of the probability of B when AI has occurred multiplied by probability of AI. So if anybody has difficulty in deriving this, let me know. I will repeat it for you. So basically, this is our Bayes theorem formula. So once we are going to do the questions, we will be able to understand it much better way. We are just replacing this PB in the equation 2 by this equation that we have put in the equation which we derive in equation 3. So clubbing these formula equation 2 and 3 together, that's what we are getting this particular formula. So let's see the question that will make the things more clear. Just read it once. In order to manage the credit risk, a bank regularly rates each of its borrower as A1 or A2 or A3 based on their credit history, whereas A1 implies the lowest risk and A3 implies the highest risk. Risk means the chance that a borrower might fail to pay back the loan amount. So based on historical data, on an average, 30% customers are rated A1, 60% are A2, and 10% are rated as A3. So maximum people are being rated as under average risk, whereas A3, 10% of the people are at the highest risk of getting defaulted, and 30% are considered the safest customer. So adding up all these three, 30, 60, and 10 will add up to 100%. It found that 1% of the customer who were rated A1 will default, and 10% of the customer who are rated A2 will default, and 18% of the customer who are rated A3 will default. That is, they will fail to pay. So what is the probability we need to find out over here? So if you randomly pick up a customer from defaulters pool, what is the probability that he had received an A1 rating? So what we have to find over here is that the person is already into the defaulters pool. So we have to find the probability that that particular person belongs to A1 group. So is there any problem in understanding your question? So here we need to understand few things. I'm not going to solve it today. I will leave it to you to solve it. But yeah, I'm going to give you some hints about this, that how we can actually get the value of it. So first we have to see that what actually we have to find. So we have to find the probability of rating A1 where the defaulter or default is already occurred. So this is what we have to write, and what data is actually given. So data which is given is that what percentage of people are in the A1 category, that is 30%. What percentage of people are actually into A2 category, and what percentage of people are in A3 category, right? And apart from that, what is already given is 1% of the customer who were rated A1. So in other word, what we have been given here is probability of defaulting when a person belongs to A1 category. This is given, that is 1%, 0.01, right? Also given is probability of defaulter, given it is from A2, and then what is given is probability of so this value is going to be 10%, so it is, and then what is given is probability of defaulting given the person belong to A3 group. So this is, I think, 18%. Yeah, it's 18%, 0.18. So these three are given, right? What we actually need to find the opposite of this part, right? We need to find a opposite of the first part, that is probability of being A1 from the pool of defaulters. So just looking at the formula which we have derived over here is, what is it? So if in place of this puller, if we replace this with defaulters, so what is given over here is this whole thing, right? And what we need to find is this thing A1, where D has occurred from the pool of defaulters. So what we need is probability of defaulters in case of AI, that is A1. So we have already given this data, right? And then we need probability of AI, which is in 30%. Yeah, that is 30% already. So this we have, and summation of all this we also have, right? So probability of defaulters given A1 multiplied by probability of A1 plus probability of defaulters given A2 multiplied by probability of A2 plus probability of defaulters given A3 multiplied by probability of all A3. So I hope I have made it clear that all these data we already have. We just need to put these data in this formula and we will get the answer. So is there any problem in understanding this? Let me know. I will repeat the Bayes theorem once more. So I hope it is clear to everyone. You just find the answer tomorrow. We will discuss briefly tomorrow about this, and I will solve it also. So if you want, you can get just keep the screenshot of this question so that you can try and solve it. And you can also keep the screenshot of the formula. I hope it is clear to everyone. So now we are ending the session over here and meet next weekend on Saturday at the same time, 9 p.m. And we'll start with probability distribution, in which we will cover every kind of distribution: binomial distribution, negative binomial distribution, normal distribution, exponential distribution. So these distribution we are going to cover, and even some interesting example related to that we are going to cover in next session. So good night, and
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.